The countdown onto the new year is on, and some of us are thinking about those resolutions to take on in 2026. Maybe you're just looking towards an overall shift in your life. So with tips on how to make that happen, what route to take, we have our crisis strategist and host of the Crisis File, Roshini Rajkumar. Thank you so much for joining us. This is really such an important topic right now.
It really is, and it's a time when people think of resolutions, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on us. I think it's overall envisioning and visioning who you want to be and how you want to get there.
And that's really a good question that everyone should be starting with, right? How do I envision myself?
Exactly, and it's really personal. Be authentic to you. Don't think that just because your neighbor is doing something or your competitor at work is doing something, you have to do it that way. Really look at what brings you joy. What are your strengths?
What do you think really is top of mind for people when they are thinking about their visions and what they want in 2026?
Well, a lot of people are concerned about jobs and careers and their trajectories and their ability to move up in the coming workforce, whether AI is a challenge, whether it's just they're worried about layoffs, as there have been so many headlines in 2025 about layoffs. But you really need to start with you. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? And a lot of things will flow from there, Morgan.
I like that. How do we tackle these? Because some people, I'm not saying I'm guilty of this, but I feel like it happens to me every year where I'm like, this is going to be my New Year's resolution, and then I fall off. So like, what are some tips and tricks to stay on your path and working towards your goals?
Right. Well, let's say it is a career plan and you want a certain job by a certain time. Well, it doesn't just happen overnight. So start by gathering maybe your hot list of how the great things you did in the last 6 months or the last year. Really organize that and have a step-by-step each month, each quarter. What am I going to do as far as new wins? Who am I going to talk about it with? Am I going to sit down with my boss and say, here's my vision. How can you help me with that? So we do have to be bold.
Yeah, and I like that you talk about your boss, like going through this with a boss or a manager at work. That's something to really hold you accountable for.
Yeah, it's important that we find either our mentors, our sponsors, our advisors. Maybe you have your own career coach, whomever that is. Sometimes, my husband is a great advisor. I'll sit down with him and I'll say, I'm looking at these kinds of things for new sources of business for my own company next year. What are your thoughts? Because he brings some other information from his past life that aren't in my brain that he could really help me. So this is a time to go to people you trust, not everybody on the street, but people you trust, and say, here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? Give me some input.
Yeah, I know. People you trust who will remind you of everything that you were talking about.
And be honest with you.
Yes, and that really, the accountability factor is so important when we are talking about rebranding and moving towards this vision of yourself. And honestly, I like how you're like, we don't like to say resolution, because I feel like that is so overdone talking about resolution. So looking at it this way as like a rebrand, that's really beautiful.
Well, the other thing is it could be a rebrand of your career. It could be a rebrand of your home. Do you have some big home renovation project? Again, it can't get all done in a month with various supply chain issues and other things. Maybe savings you need to put toward that. What's the game plan for each month, for each quarter? Where do I want to be by this time next year? Those are the questions to ask yourself now. And so I like to get away from that word resolution. Sorry, all those lists that are out there. And whether it's a rebrand of yourself, your own thought leadership, whether it's a rebrand of your family, maybe it's how you relate to your kids. Maybe that needs an overhaul. But vision what you want and then make a guide, kind of a roadmap to get there.
There we go. Perfect. Roshini, thank you so much for joining us. If you want more tips and tricks, you can find her and the Crisis Files on our website, thecrisisfiles.com.